One thing that upset a number of people when Disney bought Star Wars was the cancellation of the expanded universe and all of it being declared non-canon and being labeled as the Legend series. However, to fill in the new gaps between various Star Wars movies, shows, and comics, we have a whole new book series. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with one of these books, Star Wars Lords of the Sith by Paul S. Kemp. This book takes place between the end of Episode 3 and another novel, Tarkin, something we may get into later. The plot, like so many of the Star Wars novels, follows several different viewpoints switched between various characters in order to tell the whole story. Obviously, part of the focus goes towards Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader, but other characters also take the spotlight, including Cham Syndulla, who also shows up in the Clone Wars cartoon as well as shows up in Rebels, and, for those who don't know, is Herod's father, alongside various members of his own resistance movement, with one standout member being Isval, another Twi'lek who, being a former slave, has a strong hatred for the Empire. The story takes place on Ryloth, as well as the general area of space around it, because Star Wars, with Cham and his rebellion failing one more mission and being pushed into a corner. With no more hope, they decide to take on an impossible challenge with their final chance, a fallen assassination of Palpatine, who'll be arriving in the area in order to look over the Empire strength in the area. At the same time, Vader is thinking about his past as Anakin, as well as considering what it means to be a Sith Lord, as well as his whole place in the whole Empire. And if he'll eventually end up killing Palpatine and taking his place. Of course, the assassination attempt doesn't go as planned, and Vader and Palpatine end up stuck on Ryloth in the wilderness, attempting to survive and make their way back. You could honestly call this Vader Down if that wasn't a comic already. Also, that comic is awesome. All the while, Cham and the others are hunting them down, hoping to end them and free their home. But because canon, things aren't exactly gonna go well for them. Anyway, as you can believe with the various assassination attempts, as well as space battles, there's a ton of action in this book. There are epic space battles showcasing Vader and Palpatine's full mastery of the Force against their various foes. There's literally a scene where Vader's jumping around like he's freaking Mario. And considering the fact that Vader's a tank, that's really impressive. On the opposite side, Cham shows his full military expertise, as well as his own fanatical determination to free his home of Ryloth. When you consider the fact that in canon, Ryloth has been enslaved and conquered by both the Hutts and then the Empire, as well as the whole thing with the Separatists, it's understandable why he'd be a bit determined, for lack of a better term, and how Ryloth has become a complete hellhole under the Empire's rule, as well as the state of the Twi'lek race. Here's a hint, it's not very good. One thing there is to love about this is how it shows Vader and Palpatine's relationship to one another. Vader constantly thinks about how him and Palpatine relate to each other, and if one day he'll end up killing him and taking his place, with Palpatine telling him that should either of them display weakness, it's fair for them to kill one another. There's even a moment where Vader gets a chance to leave the Emperor to die, but decides to go back and fight alongside him and win the day, because he displayed the strength of a Sith. It really goes into the whole psychology of what it means to be a Sith, especially considering the whole rule of two thing. And of course, Cham and his crew get their own bits of development here and there. Everything Cham goes through pretty much explains how he ends up in Rebels. Basically, so fanatical that he's willing to destroy a Star Destroyer over Ryloth, despite being explained to him multiple times the fact that this Star Destroyer can do more good if they keep it intact. That was a really good episode of Rebels, by the way. Overall, this is a great book, and something that any Star Wars fan should read, with some great action, some character depth which was missing from the prequels, if you ask me, and some great showing of those various characters, seeing Palpatine kick ass, seeing Vader kick ass, and whatnot. This book is great, but here's the ultimate question. Does this book make up for the loss of the expanded universe? I have to say not yet. Mara Jade was too awesome of a character, and yeah, we did get Thawne back, but we don't know his full details yet, because new canon. But we are getting a book about him too later this year, so here's hoping. Anyway, we'll be revisiting more Star Wars books in the times to come, so till the next Star Wars, see you then.